This is kind of a little bit of a different video. I usually do things that I either haven't carved before, haven't demonstrated, interesting chips, or just something different like that. This one, I want to demonstrate my process of carving this, which is just a standard Gothic leaf, very common pattern that we see in chip carving, common one that I've used in my carvings and have probably shown multiple times. But I don't know if you can tell in the video, hopefully, just this is a very large version, and these are very large chips that I'm going to be removing. And so I thought it might be interesting to just see how I approach that and realize that this is a doable thing, to not shy away from large chips, to recognize that if you're kind of smart and intentional and, as always, patient, you can remove large chips like this. So unsurprisingly, if you've seen some other videos, the answer is not to try to do it at once. That would be a lot of depth. I'd be having to push really hard, and potentially breaking the wood, or just putting a lot more effort into this. So my strategy here, as I've talked about before, is relief chips, where you remove kind of a smaller chip, smaller version of the same chip on the inside first, and that gives the wood some place to move. Now when I put the knife in and I kind of push it over, it has some place to move into. But since this is so large, I'm actually going to do that more than once. And so for a chip like this, maybe you need to do it 3 or 4 times to be able to get that kind of depth, because this is going to end up being pretty deep. So now I still go in between what I just removed and what my ultimate goal is. I'm gonna go in there, split that difference between the pattern line and the chip. So this is already a big chip now, and I got a little bit more to go, but you can see I'm just removing this little sliver of wood now. And so as I remove the wood, it's going to kind of peel and flake and splinter, which is okay, because that just gets it out of the way of my knife. But now I want to use all the standard good technique. It's probably going to require a little bit more force than usual, but not as bad as it would be if I hadn't made those relief cuts. Way. And especially for this cut, I definitely want to make sure that I'm carving with the grain. If I were to start here and try to come down, I would have a mess on my hand. So I want to definitely carve in this direction, which means going backwards, which is even harder as far as strength. So I definitely want to make this as easy on myself as I can for carving in this direction. So you can see right there, this kind of peels up as I go. And as always with the Gothic leaf kind of shape here, this is an against the grain cut, but very oblique, so it should work out fine. I want to put the knife tip right down there at that meeting spot where all 4 cuts meet. Put the blade on the line, draw it out. If I were to go with the grain, the challenge would be making it line up perfectly, and it's probably not going to be a problem on this one, but once I get over here, the grain on that ridge that goes down is going to be weak, and if I were to leave that to cut last, I could run into some problems with the wood breaking and chipping out on me. So when you start there, it still has all the strength of the wood around it. Just finish up some of these little pieces that didn't quite come out. And you can see how well that works, even though it's a very large chip, able to get a nice, smooth, clean cut as a final result. And as I've said before, all that matters is the final result. No one knows or probably really cares how you got to that result. So stuff like this is useful to have little tricks in our bag. I don't worry too much about the quality of my cuts. I think as a beginner, when you're doing relief cuts, it's probably a good idea to take care to make them good. Use them as practice cuts as you're getting in there, because they don't matter, and if you do mess up, then you can make some adjustment that you need to before you get to the final cut. But practice is always a good addition to what we're doing. So just following that same process on this side of removing 2 layers of relief chip. Before moving on to the final product. So while a chip like this probably is not something that you're going to be looking to tackle as a beginner, I think it's worth recognizing that whatever a big chip is for you, the process looks the same, and to not be afraid to try large chips to expand your skill and what you're able to carve. See if you can grow to being able to do bigger and bigger things, expand the kinds of projects that you're able to do. If that's something you're interested in doing, if you have just a niche of smaller projects or smaller designs, then that's fine too. But to recognize that even something as kind of giant as this is definitely doable with practice and some intentional foresight in how you approach it. So I hope that's encouraging to someone out there if you're struggling to do big chips. Kind of a tip there in doing multiple levels of relief chip, and also to recognize that you can do very large chips with good practice.